Thank you for coming on into the live and sharing your essence with me in this eternal moment of which we all share an inextricable and inexorable part. Thank you for doing your part, for coming on in each and every day, and we will do the same without wasting a single second of your time. Bada bing, bada boom, we go into the charts. So Bitcoin got a little bit of a sweep drop down to these lows here at 4,621 and a little bit lower to sweep off some of the long liquidity. What is the liquidity? Well, let's go check it out. We also bounced off the 0.65 of this diagonal pitch fan we've had price in for over a year. So let's go ahead and take a look at the liquidity. And what do you mean by liquidity? Well, there are three pillars to trading. There's liquidity, math, and momentum. We look at them in that order. So let's go look at the liquidity. What is this? Well, people lock their liquidity into the charts to get burnt to crisp by the market maker for not using a stop loss, and we get to see where those crispy characters got liquidated in the last 24 hours. 57 million for BTC eliminated.
Fatality.
You had some others, 30 million ETH to long. These are all longs if they're green. Some UMA short, $12 million in short liquidity. And you can look in the last 12 hours, a lot of longs for BTC. 4 hours, you got that UMA short guy, and Doge, some short liquidity getting rocked on the way to the upside in the last hour. 320 in short liquidity to the upside for those late shorters.
Fatality. And we can
And we can go to the heat map for this as well. This is a free resource to check out the liquidity, so you can see that there was 62 million down here in the last 3 days, and they came and swept it up and bounced off for that ABC play. Let's hold ourselves to the flame of what we said yesterday would happen. How is it that I can say something and 24 hours later it does the exact thing to the exact level that I said? Kind of creepy, don't you think? Sometimes you do it long enough, it's not that creepy. So we said it would come up to here, sweep this pool up, and what do you know? It came to this pool, swept up that long pool up, or the short pool up here at 41,551, and then dropped down to here and had a reaction. So that came true, dream come true. We came lower. First they did a little stop hunt, came up to here and then dipped it, and there was some liquidity there's some money flow divergence as well, which we'll get into in a minute. But first, where do we go from here? Let's go ahead and expand our vision on this free heat map of the liquidity. You got a large pool down here, 3.35 billion down at 34K. We've been talking about that for some time on High Block. We canceled our subscription to High Block, but this is a free resource. coinglass.com/liquidity. You can see that liquidity stuff. You can also go to the map here and see where the latest, this is like the 1 minute version, so you can see there's 85 million down at 41,165. And there is 36 million just above at 41,861. So maybe they come up to this pool here to continue. You can also zoom in on that to see where the latest liquidity pools lie. 9 million up here at 41,766, the closest pool, and then some more up here at 41,844, 41,866. I like it. I dig it. I dig it. So also there's another liquidity resource tool here that you can check out by ML Applications, liquidation levels. Be sure to select 0.1 for every $100,000 trader, and then make sure you're not in an hourly time frame, but go beneath the 15. I would say 15 and below is where it's at. Used this for years before I got into High Block, so this is not something that we just started using. But you can see where every 100x trader opens here. This is the most noteworthy thing, because they always sweep the 100x off the table before they go in the direction. So if they were going up, they would go down here, sweep these guys up, then go up from there. So it at least gives you a range for where to look for your long, like avoid all of these guys, early entries kind of thing. And similarly, they came down, you see the 100x pools, the 50x pools, and the 25x. And so you see where they start to stack an imbalance and then play the imbalance. Some other big YouTuber copied my sauce on that, but he doesn't know how to view it, and he views it zoomed out like this, like, oh, well, there's a lot of liquidity down here and up here, and he's not looking at it with a fine-tooth comb because he lacks the vision to see it clearly. But basically, you see here that you have these, you look at the dots and the amounts, you can see that there's what amount they opened. $1 million long got grabbed here, boom. And then they just go grab those revenge traders who over leverage at 100x. You can go to the 5 minute and it will get even more nitty gritty as well. This is something you turn on and off, not meant to be on all the time. That's why we have a heads up display for our momentum as well. We don't have the momentum on when we're looking at liquidity and doing the math. We don't have the liquidity on when we're doing the math. It's kind of a toggle switch between the modalities of trading, the liquidity, the math, and the momentum. So you're seeing that there's some 100xers getting interested here, that they're likely going to sweep up at least down to 41.3, sweep them off the table, and then possibly go higher in this moment. We're going to turn that off now and basically delete this impulse, and let's go into the math, shall we? The math is where it's at. Shout out to everyone here. Let's go ahead and log into the live chat. What's up? Yeah, sorry to be irregularly streaming. I had a pounding headache and I just had to stay in bed. What's up, Dingo? How's it going? So, so we had this bearish trend base fib being respected from this 236 here. 42.453, we came below it with the fervor, came down to the 706 nearly and cleared out this liquidity range, almost took out the wick here. That was our POI, we hit it and reacted off of it in tune. So still not out of the woods for a upwards play, but we still have some pools that could be on the chopping block that we could be looking at. You swept up all these wicks, so all these wicks are now recovered. They had some fake reactions off this wick and eventually went lower to recover the wick over here, and then they chopped through that wick, and they have yet to sweep up this wick. I think it was this one that they came back to and reacted on. So it was, yeah, basically that wick over there, but we still have another wick down here, the lower of the two, that they could react off of. And then we have our 39.5 liquidity pool for the entire liquidity sweep. We may not be out of the woods just yet for downside. This is what the bearish trend base fib dragged in. You have this impulse to the downside and the retrace to the upside, showing the strength of what it wants to do in advance. So it came down to the 706, said not yet, and came back up here, but we still very well could come down into these levels, the 37k, the 38k, the 39k. 39k is the last line of defense for an upside potential. Beyond that, you're aiming at these levels below. Nothing goes down forever though, so just like nothing goes up forever. So we will see. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Fibonacci on this small little internal shift we had with the liquidity sweep to the upside. So we're coming back to an equilibrium level perhaps, or a deep pocket retraced zone down here. We talked about that liquidity, the 100x. If they sweep beyond the 100x and come to the 50x, then you could be getting a reaction off of that. Then you get your shoulder head and your shoulder to come up to this region here on the standard deviation play, up to that 42.7, which will take you to the top of the range and beyond. This would also be done once we know where the pivot occurs. Then you could do this with your trend-based fibs and do like something like that and look for your line in the sand for your long entry to be confirmed and where to go from there. Okay, this is the weekend, so I don't expect much liquidity, and you do have this larger amount, 150 million down to this region. You do have 150 million in the same distance to the upside, so coming down to this band here at 41,135-ish to get these guys, this 37 million, 40 plus million here might be the chopping block next, 41.2. So coming down to this region makes sense, and then you can come up to there. Let's go ahead and look at the momentum. Momentummaster.info for more. Link in the description, and yeah, you can scroll down to features, toggle at your leisure. And this is what we like to see when it gets into those 6s and those 5s and the rocket ships. We don't have the rocket ships just yet, but basically trend cloud, baseline, stochastic array, and more. You got dynamic alerts coming to your phone left and right. So if we turn this on now, you will see. Let's go. 15 minutes. So it didn't lock in on, nothing locked in on an hourly time frame, but you had these 6 time frames oversold, getting the 6s and the 5s. The 6s and the 5s are what we like to see down here. These 6s start to play out with fury, 6s and 7s. So we had the 6 time frames oversold, lock in. You would have gotten that dynamic alert to your phone, boom, to the upside at the key level we were talking about from yesterday's stream. Now we are coming back to the 15-minute cloud, starting to fade off of it. We got a kiss to it, but very little reaction. You have the cross down event of the baselines on the 15. This 15-minute is resetting right now. How do I know all this without looking at the oscillator? I have this little box here telling the stochastic health, the probability health. The 15-minute coming down at 65. You have the hourly at 83, also overbought. 4 hour 76 overbought. So these are coming down. If you're at work and you don't have time to look at all these time frames, it has you handled. It keeps you in control of the markets without having to spend so long to look into it. So on the hourly, you see it's overbought and coming down on the stochastic. Money flow beneath the RSI at even Steven levels. And if we go to that 4 hour, that medium time frame, we were talking about how this cloud was potentially suppressing. We said, watch out if you cannot get a candle above this cloud. And I didn't like the fact that this was coming down to price rather than price going up to it. I said we'd get one last chance to stab at it, and we did that one last chance and dumped hard to the downside. So now this is curving the angle and not even showing signs of abating just yet. So this 4 hour cloud still bearish in overtone, and we got a stab up here. The stab up and rejection off of the outskirts of the cloud and coming down off of this cloud stab attempt and the adaptive that we flipped. Think of the adaptive moving average here as your VWAP. It's not VWAP, it is a more complicated formula, but we are beneath it, so we are possibly flipping this to resistance and coming lower. Oops, on the 4 hour. So the 4 hour time frame attempting to come up here but not really playing out. You have a blue vector insinuating stopping volume only, and then we saw that stopping volume recover some of those pools. So they came back to recover the pools of liquidity on those shorts. 400k taken on the short, and yeah, the money flow above the RSI suggesting fatigue as they buy back here. Let's do our analysis from the higher time frame as we normally do. So we'll make our descent through the time frames, and the thing that we had you at hello about, warning the entire time on this upside play, was this 3-day cross down event. We said no matter if we get this stop hunt to the upside, These do not lie to you, and they are your leading moving average formula of the baselines, one of the few you will find on the market. The first sign of reversal. So this was starting to reverse, and we were saying back for days since December 15th that even if you have a stop hunt like April Fools did, eventually 18% retrace. Here, July, we had another one, cross down event. This was an easier one to the downside. We had this at hello in July as well. We've been streaming every day for almost a year. You can go back and check. But so we were talking about this, saying even if we came up here, we're likely to come back down now. And we were talking about the pre-having retrace. Check out this guy's Rect Capital handle and read about his analysis on that for more pretty thorough, in-depth, deep dive. Rect Capital. All right, so we could be doing the pre-having retrace, you know, buy the rumor, sell the news kind of thing with the approval of the ETF. We've seen it before. We were talking about September 7th and that bullish news sending Bitcoin spiraling to the downside. So not surprising that we are getting this. We were hoping for a little bit higher of a retrace before they came down, but they had the shorts in a tizzy, so the shorts did not enter in enough to recover up to that level. Okay, so three-day getting suppressed by the Williams as the Williams resets. Daily getting suppressed by the Williams as the William resets. MACD, leading MACD falling to the downside, cross down, no signs of crossing up. We were talking about this cloud on the daily starting to turn from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, starting to get out of its phase of that upside play. We came beneath the daily cloud, bearishly retest the cloud, and now we're coming potentially lower on a C leg down. 22-hour and the 12-hour were starting to shift bearish from back here, going to that 3 o'clock angle and turning to purple, as we see happen time and time again as the trend starts to shift. So this was insinuating weakness. That's why we were saying we're not trying to long here, we're trying to short or find a short opportunity. And yeah, okay, so looking for the, let's see if the oscillator's in the position. Ooh, you got money flow above the RSI suggesting fatigue here. So this money flow above the RSI is the opposite, where the money is flowing in, but we're not going anywhere. RSI is flat, so this could come back down again for another leg. You're getting this Cinderella slipper looking fertile crescent valley of the peaks of the mountains, starting to get to a zone. It's been a while since we've seen it go to those regions twice on the Williams like that on the hourly. It's been a hot minute, basically since September when we had those rocket ships out of here. So will we reset some of these time frames on the higher time frames and get some action out of 39K? Perhaps we will. I would expect some manipulation of some kind. The 12-hour also getting the money flow above the RSI, suggestive of fatigue, and seeing the money flow come lower. What do I mean by that? Well, you see this gray line. This is the money flow, and the RSI down here. When the money flow comes above the RSI, it tends to gravitate back to the RSI, which means money flows away, down. And conversely, when it comes beneath the RSI, as we saw back here in this point, when it was dumping, it comes back to the RSI. There are cases where the RSI comes down to it, like it did here when the cloud was weak on the 4-hour. But for the most part, the money flows up to the RSI or down to the RSI. So this gives an insinuation of more downside on the 12. The overall 12 narrative is getting oversold though on most oscillators, so you could be seeing some subtle support there as well. Slightly ambiguous. The only thing bearish about it is the money flow. 6-hour, we are beneath that adaptive moving average. We had a large sell-off wick on that stab to the upside. Getting a rising sun on the Williams and we are getting the money flow beneath this. So getting the 6-hour potential of some upside play to that 42.7 deviation mark could be the case after the slight retrace. Looking at the 4-hour, we already talked about, starting to get fatigued as it pushed up with that stopping volume candle, starting to retrace here, possibly coming lower on that 15-minute reset here. Coming to the hourly hovering around this overbought status and holding the cloud that it reclaimed here. Got a vector and a stopping volume, and we're holding the cloud, and the cloud is getting less purple and thinning, abating to a degree here. Do we see it thin down in this region over the weekend in this pocket? Patiently waiting the pocket play. We'll see if it comes to the pocket and what it looks like at that time. We'll throw on the liquidation levels and see who's biting from that point. All right, and coming to the 15, once again, we talked about how the cross down event, we'll see how that holds. And coming lower, we have the liquidation levels to look at of those 100xers and 50xers as well. All right, let's go to the broader markets. We have the NASDAQ sending it to new levels, new highs, and we're getting some fatigue across all the time frames in doing so. So we're getting overbought across 7 time frames. So we could be seeing some nice retrace into some of these levels and possibly going higher. The day before, we were having this down to the order block, and then we broke through 2 points of control and broke into new highs. So this was when you had this reaction at the 95 level. After I went to bed, you came back to the point of control and you were gone. So there was some limit orders in here, whales looking to send it to higher highs, and they did. So that is for NQ. The dollar still holding in this range here, determining where they want to send it. It's in a holding pattern. You have this hold here. It's looking to possibly break out of this next week, perhaps, as it determined to hold in this region. You do have this gap was recovered. We can basically take this out. And look to here, we have a little bit of a gap down here that it could retrace back into in terms of finding some sort of bounce idea out of the DXY zone. Okay, so you got all of these levels that we basically recovered, and now in that fair value gap region, and then we're starting to make a narrative to possibly come up to here. Let me go ahead and redo this. So we could be possibly rotating to the downside on risk on assets and seeing the dollar come down on Monday, then start to make its way up to here at some point. This could be a breakaway idea from the fatigue that it experienced down here with the rockets, and looking to possibly come up to here to test that region. Do we have news release yet for next week? I wonder what the list of news is. Let's go ahead. Probably won't be out till Sunday. Yeah, it's not out yet. But we'll keep an eye on this. We still have time to look at it in detail later off the stream. And looking at Bitcoin dominance. So the dominance got a reaction off the pocket. We were seeing this come up a little bit with the cross up event of the 12-hour and the dominance taking over control of the market. The cross down event of the alts with the nukes and the structure being kind of bearish, telling us that it was coming lower, and it did. Starting to get these buybacks off the 6.5 and the super trend levels here, but overall alts struggling a bit to maintain control. The USDT dominance starting to be bullish and have reactions to come up into this region, perhaps, as it knocks people into trades, and you got your rocket ships leading the way. Okay. So that is basically it. What's up, Bryce? Nice little inverse. Yeah. What's up, Prehab? Hope everything's going well. So if we go to that Bitcoin weekend play. Oh, also we were looking at SWE for my guy Clue the other time. Let's see how SWE held up. We were basically looking at downside going into that hit that level, came back down, came back up. Now just range bound at this point. Nearly came to that one level. But ultimately the alt's struggling a little bit. The structure is kind of rounded. If you see this kind of rounded structure, it's a high resistance setup. There's a lot of like ranges to fight through to even go back up above this now. So having a clean breakdown is one way to reset the narrative on that. So that's why the alts are kind of in the same state here, kind of getting that rounded top feel. Overall getting 6 time frames oversold, so getting a little bit of a bounce up into that liquidity. But that's my story. I'm sticking to it for BTC. Pretty easy today. It is low liquidity weekend, so be careful. And I would look for Asia to kind of fade. It'll do something like this. Let's go ahead and look at the ML applications liquidation levels here. So if they went and grabbed that 1.49 million, pretty slick. They're like, boop, knock you out. He shorted into this candle. They came up, grabbed him. So you get used to seeing what the games are, right? Because you can see, for example, this guy opened on this candle. You saw he was immediately in drawdown, and they came up and grabbed him. And they said, thanks, 1.49 million free. And they just slide it off the table like you're in a casino. And then they start to come back down to these guys here. They first came down to those guys, took the 1.2 million from him. He opens his short, and they're like, okay, we'll take yours, and then we'll take yours, and then we'll take yours, and then we'll take yours. And it's basically a sweep between the 100xers, and they just go to the 100xers. Now, if you want to see something, another cool resource that's free, this was something I watched for years on the 10-second here. If you don't afford the 10-second, you can get this one. This is v3.aggr.trade. It is 18 exchanges of information, and you can see, and I wait for liquidations to appear where my head is, bottom right here, and you'll see liquidations appear. And it has 19 exchanges of information, and you can go down to the 10-second, the 1 minute, and it will basically show you where people get liquidated. See these gold bars down here? Those are all bull liquidations. Purple is bear, and so you'd be able to time your entry around the liquidations of these people. So even without high block, there's all these free resources all around you for you to utilize. So you wait for these like gold bars to get liquidated to enter for a long, and you wait for the purple for entering in on the short. And so you can basically see these liquidations in real time. One thing to see that in historical value, because it doesn't save it, the history is you just type in liquidation watch here, and you can see 56 minutes ago 50k got eliminated. An hour ago some bulls got eliminated on Binance, and you can basically time with a lot of liquidations. If you don't see liquidations, you don't enter. No raid, no trade. That's what my motto is. Renier's been using that one too, I see. So no raid, no trade. So you wait for the raid to enter the trade. And this will help you to see that. I used to have it like this. I'll show you how I set it up. I would have a separate window, and I would do this. And then I would make this kind of narrow or whatever. And then, let's see, yeah. I would have it like that. And then I would arrange my other window kind of like this. And then I would just be watching I would be watching the price action, and then I would see the v3.aggr trades here. So I'd be always hearing the liquidations and all that stuff on one window while I'm looking at the price, and then you'd see who's entering and who's getting liquidated. Something to think about. Free resources are good. Don't deny them. All right, so I'll take any questions at this time. Anyone got any questions, comments, anything while you have me? Waiting for a retrace into this pocket, see how the reaction off the pocket is. You could even come to a deeper retrace zone. So ideally a 618 reaction would be nice to see, but you could be coming down to the 786 level. But you have to have a line in the sand where the theory no longer makes sense, so wishful thinking does not get you there. But yeah, basically looking for this play up to here. We'll see how that works for the weekend. All right, so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, folks. I gotta spend some time with the family before work today, so if you have no comments or questions, then I will bid you adieu. So thank you for coming on into the live and sharing your essence with me in this eternal moment of which we all share an inextricable and inexorable part. Thanks for doing your part, for coming on in each and every day, and we'll do the same, bringing the fire, the accuracy, the precision, all that fun stuff, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.